Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're hailing from. Welcome to another episode here on OpenShift TV. Today we are talking about a very special new thing that is being released by Red Hat. It's still in beta. We're still kicking the tires on it and figuring out how people are going to use it, but it is the free Developer Sandbox for OpenShift. And I've brought on Don Schneck to, sorry if I made a total mistake on saying your last name. We've brought on Don to talk about his this new thing that we're doing to help everybody kick the tires on OpenShift. So welcome, Don. Thank you for joining. Take it away, buddy. Like, show us what you got.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to share my screen.
Wonderful.
Try to get rid of the Inception stuff. So this is called it's actually called the Developer Sandbox for Red Hat OpenShift. Everything in Red Hat has to go through branding, and I want everyone to pay attention to the little orange beta. You remember when Gmail came out and it was beta for like 5 years?
We don't do that here.
Yeah, I don't think we'll take that.
It was actually like 10 years, I think, to be honest.
I think it was a long time. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's a good out, right? Oh, it's
right.
beta.
It's always beta.
So we're definitely going to glom onto that idea. But it's pretty slick and it's going to get you started. So let's go through a few points and then we'll get some hands on the keyboard and I can really mess things up.
Yes.
So there's a URL at the top and I'm sure we can get it out to you.
I got it.
Okay, first of all, what is the Developer Sandbox for Red Hat OpenShift, or the Sandbox? It is it's 2 weeks of free access to a running OpenShift cluster. So you're sharing a cluster with other people. So that has some limitations. There are some things in Red Hat OpenShift that are not multi-tenant. And if you're not familiar with that term, think of an apartment building. It has multiple tenants that can live together happily. There are some things in OpenShift that you install it and it's only one can be installed for the whole cluster. So we can't let you have that because you might install it and somebody else, they bump into each other. But things that are multi-tenant, knock yourself out. There's no installation necessary, which is really slick. You just you go to Red Hat Developer, you sign up. There's no credit card,
no fee.
There's no fee. There's nothing like that. You click a box if you want us to contact you occasionally, and that's it. Then you just go to a URL and you're ready to go, which is really slick. And it's for developer and operations people. It's basically a zero risk opportunity to learn about images and containers and Kubernetes and OpenShift and microservices and all that fun stuff. You can play around, experiment all you want. You have 7 gigs of RAM and 15 gigs of storage, which is really nice. I've been using this since it came out, in alpha, I guess, and I've been having a blast. It's just fantastic, and there's no risk. There's zero risk. So who is it for? Well, if you're a seasoned veteran like me, I'm a graybeard. Seriously, I've been in IT for over 40 years.
Wow.
I know.
I thought me being in here since I was 15 and now I'm 40 was a long time. Yeah,
I started when I was 3.
Well, I mean, if we're counting Commodore 64 and everything, yeah.
But if you're someone who's been in IT for a while and you really like you there's pressure to keep up. Not pressure, but there's a desire to keep up. This is your chance to really up your game. Even if your company's not using it, it's always good as an individual, right? To learn things, you know what I'm saying? But there's developers and operators where you're in a company where they're exploring containers and Kubernetes and OpenShift, or they're talking about it, or they've heard of it. And this is your opportunity, maybe one of those companies, to kind of be the leading edge person saying, hey, look, I've been doing this stuff and this is really slick and we can use it here, here, and here. I had a really good conference talk called Let's Kill the Microservices Hype, which really, it's not quite what the title sounds like, and it really helps companies get a grasp on how to get going with this stuff. I need to get that recorded and put it out there. It's also for hedge fund managers who maybe lost everything recently trying to short GameStop, and maybe you're looking to switch careers. So I just had to give these guys a shout out.
I just heard a story about that.
Man, it's just,
oh my God.
It's just
ridiculous.
It's so
For
great.
folks that aren't aware, right? Like there's people that are shorting the GameStop stock, thinking that it's going to tank because it's like a mall-based business. But then there's this group of amateur investors over here on Reddit doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and now the stock is up like 400% or something. It's ridiculous.
So yeah, all these poor people that have 2 yachts have to sell one of them. But,
I know, right? Like
so
I don't feel bad for them.
so we talked about what it is and how do you get it, and then what can you do on it. Let's get some more concrete examples. And so you can run samples. We have OpenShift has sample code, sample projects, not projects, sample applications built into it that you can basically click and run. And so there's that. That's a good way to kind of get started. You can build and run your own code, which is pretty slick. And I'm going to demo that and the first one. You can also run your own images that maybe you already have. Maybe you've already done the Docker build or Podman build. Remember, if it's only a container if it's done by Podman. Otherwise, it's merely a sparkling binary. But either one of those that you build it with, you can then just run that. Like you don't have to. So we have this image and it's running in this container and it works. Cool. Just blah, 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 blah. And it runs in OpenShift. You can do that. You can basically learn all the stuff you need for containers and Kubernetes and OpenShift. OpenShift, if you're not familiar, is built on top of Kubernetes. I call it Kubernetes on steroids without the heart problems. And it supports like Java, Python, Go, .NET, including C#, F#, even VB. I have, because I'm like that, actually done COBOL. Yes, I have, just for giggles. Ruby. So you can run, pick your language pretty much, and just run it in a container. So the first thing I want to do is I have 2 clusters here. One is my sandbox,
Right.
and one is just another cluster I have. And because some of the steps take a while, I don't want to bore you with that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go and show you the samples. So here we have all these samples, and I can say, give me a sample application. I click there, pick a language of choice. I'll pick Python. And so it has a name for the application, the image that I want to build, the version. It has a repo where it's going to go and get it. And I'll talk about more of that. Just hit create. Oh, I've already done that one. So this is a really good example. I've done this before. When you create an application in OpenShift, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You have things called deployments or deployment configs. You have image streams. Sometimes you have a route. Sometimes you have a service. And sometimes you have secrets, which, like passwords and stuff like that. It's not important right now that you know what all those are. This is your opportunity when you get in here to learn that. But what you're seeing on the screen now is, hey, this secret already exists because you've tried this before. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, then let's go and pick a different one. So we'll go to samples and pick Node.js. And again, it fills in all the blanks. I can create it. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're seeing in front of you is you're going what's called the dashboard. It has multiple modes. There's developer and there's administrator.
Right.
In a typical environment, if you're in an enterprise, you'll probably only see the developer mode because you're probably not the admin. You might be, but you probably aren't. But just know that there are, like everything, there's 2 facets to it, right? And there's RBAC configuration to control this. It's not like your developers are going to stumble and go, hey, look, I can install this SQL Server, which, by the way, you can run SQL Server in OpenShift, Microsoft SQL Server. Yes, it's a brave new world. So I've gone and clicked on that Node.js. But what I wanted to mention was you can do everything from the command line too. And in fact, as you, I don't want to say mature, as you gain experience,
right,
you'll find yourself more and more at the command line.
Yeah.
And I spent forever since it came out working in the .NET world. While I'm waiting for this, let me give a quick bio. I came to Red Hat as the .NET and Linux guy. I even literally wrote a book on .NET and Linux. So I came from the .NET world where everything in Microsoft for them was point, click, point, click, point, click.
Right.
When I came to Linux, it was like, no, you use the command line. It's just a totally different mindset. And then Microsoft went open source. And the short story is now I'm one of those command line people. I'm like, why would I go point and click when I can just do it a command line?
Right.
And everything we do here, you can do it a command line in Windows, in Mac OS, and in Linux. You don't. It's the operating system does not matter because the CLI runs on all three of them.
Right.
Although
The beauty of writing a command line tool in Go.
But yes, but what you could do is you could run it all in PowerShell because PowerShell runs everywhere.
Right.
So this is starting up. So while let's come back to that. Let's not sit here and wait for this thing to start. I want to show you taking your own code. So what's happening is you see the blue circle. It needs to turn dark blue. Things are happening over here. Let me just go and view the logs. This is pretty cool. So I can see the events. That's kind of a higher level OpenShift saying, hey, I'm building this and I'm building this. And then I can look at the logs of the individual pod that's running, and you can see the details of what's going on here. It's copying things. It's, if you've ever done like Docker or Podman build, it's kind of running through what would be a Docker file. And so, okay, we're getting some blobs, pushing some stuff. So you can see all that. So that's pretty cool. You kind of get behind the scenes image, look at everything. To me, that's cool once. And I'm like, I don't really care.
It's going to build.
Seriously, as a developer, I don't care.
Build.
I want to know. I want to see it once. Like, okay, I know what it does. Now, like, I don't care. It's like my car. I turn the key, it starts, I drive it. I don't care about the DSG and how it works.
Eventually Kubernetes will become something like the car, right? Or the computer, where it's like, I know how this works.
That is exactly true, because there's some talk out there about Kubernetes can be complicated, and I guess from operator standpoint, but as a developer, eventually it gets really boring, which is what you want, right? You always you want your investments to be boring, and you want your back end stuff to be boring. I mean, it really should just work.
Right.
So the node when it is finished, if I click on this, it's gonna do two things in that short click. It's gonna build a service, which is the OpenShift like wrapper around your application that just says, here I am, I have a name.
Right.
And that's how you reference it. And I'll show you that in a couple minutes. And then it's going to build a route, which basically is a URL that it exposes to the world going, here you go, here I am. And then you click on it and you can see what you have in front of you, which is your basic Node.js README type or hello world type application.
Right.
So it did that. That's cool. So you can do that. And then as a developer, what you can do, I'll say that. So the next thing I want to show you is building from your own source code. So the samples is okay, but the next thing is maybe you have some code in Git. Okay, and if you see the screen, you have container image, Docker file. There's a bunch of way to build things. I'm going to just go the first three. So next, go from Git, and this one's really this is pretty slick. And I think hang on, I think I had that one running here. Yeah, so I'm going to do it in my other cluster because it takes 6 minutes, and I don't want to sit here for 6 minutes and watch this thing spin. 6 minutes.
An interesting conversation potentially.
6 minutes plus my slow typing speed, so
wow.
It takes 14 minutes. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do, and talking and typing is impossible, is I'm going to get github.coms and Red Hat developer demos. Typing and talking is like moving your mouth.
It's the higher level form of walking and chewing bubble gum.
Oh, well, I fail at it. It's not valid. What did I do wrong? Oh, Spring Peck. So the first thing to do is know the name of the Git repo that you want to get. So now it's validated it. For some reason, they can't figure out that it's Java. So I'll just say, yeah, it's Java. And that's really all I need to pull the code down.
Right.
In the like generic sense. But this particular one uses a database. Oh, you know what? I forgot to create that. Let's do that. Let's go back here and create a database. Now, if you're new to OpenShift, just watch what's going on here. MySQL ephemeral database instantiate. I'm going to give it a name, Pet Clinic. And then I'm going to copy paste that because the first time I did this, I didn't do that and I misspelled one of them and I ranted to someone that it doesn't work. So boom, 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 there. I've just created a MySQL database instance. So that's pretty slick.
Yep. Done.
Now, I mean, that's all the work it took. And if you've ever set up a database before, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And when you get to the command line, for those who might be interested, you can do the same thing with Microsoft SQL Server, which is pretty slick. I mean, just like click, click, boom, done. You have a database. So now while that's spinning up, and see the name of it is called MySQL. All right, it's done. It's running. the MySQL is the name of it. That's the name of the service that was created, because that's how you're going to reference it inside of OpenShift. And again, you're going to get a free access to this, and you're going to learn all this stuff. And you're going to be doing this stuff with your own code. And you're going to be like, this is so cool. And this is so great. So Red Hat Developer Demos, which is a great repo that we have of all kinds of Red Hat developer. Red Hat has a great developer program. That's what I'm part of. And we have all kinds of cool stuff here. And it's called Spring Pet Clinic. And on that repo, there's instructions for this.
Cool.
There are instructions. So is valid but cannot be reached. Why? What did I do wrong?
Is valid but
Red Hat Developer Demos. What did I do wrong? You know, it's probably because
is it a private repo? No, that's developer demos.
https://GitHub.com/Red Hat Developer Demos. That would be better.
There we go. Right. Validated. All
Sounds
right.
Validated. Thank you. Now, remember I have the SQL Server running, so I'm going to go down here and click Build Configuration. And if this seems a little like cryptic, it's like, well, that's why you get the free demo and play around with it. You start to learn this stuff. And we have all the resources you're going to need. And now the one resource I don't have is hang on, I got to get to that repo to remember what to type in here. I'm pretty sure I remember, but I don't want to mangle that up too.
Right.
Okay. So in my other screen that you can't see, I'm going to this. Well, you know what? I'll just bring it over here.
Yeah. Why not?
And then I'm looking for Pet Clinic. Okay. Did you see there's a Quarkus one? If you're a Java developer and don't know about Quarkus, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. It just makes Java like really fast, especially when you start it. It's like, boom, done. There's no waiting. You can, I'm off the rails here. So there's instructions here. I almost call them destructions. So everything I'm going to do is right here. So I want to change a couple of, or add a couple of environment variables. Here they are. So this, there's a thing called 12-factor apps, if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
And that's where all the microservices stuff gets its, where it's Genesis, a lot of it's instructions or whatever you want to call it. It's almost like a manifesto. One of the things is to store stuff in environment variables, which I kind of call it the return of hard coding, because it's not, but it's like this Spring Profiles active has to be given a value. And it's not hard coding because you can change it, but it's just kind of funny to me that, I don't know. I've been around a long time. It's just funny. So, but here's what's really cool. And this is an important thing. So Kubernetes it solves the problem of what's called discovery. And so I don't need to know IP addresses at all. I just need to know the name that I assigned to it. So if you remember earlier when we created the database, we called it MySQL. So over here, that's where, oh man, could you there it is. If you see what I'm highlighting here, see that MySQL : that's the MySQL protocol.
Right. And
MySQL is the name of the service that I created. So if I called it foo, and then here in this command line or this environment variable, I would use the word foo. So the thing is, you can set up conventions ahead of time, and you could program with complete confidence that it's going to find what it's supposed to. It's not like, well, what's the IP address? And, do I have to know this and that? No, you just give a service name. You all agree that we're going to call it MySQL. Good, we're done, and that's going to work. So I'm going to create that, and there's an error because this image is forbidden. What did I do wrong? By policy change after mission. I don't know what I did wrong. That doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because it's going to go create it. And the bottom line is it's going to do this. The proof that it works is what you're looking at now is my sandbox, and it's running in my sandbox. So I moved that over there to highlight these two, MySQL and Pet Clinic. MySQL is running, Pet Clinic is attached to it. And when I click on URL, it's going to go and open the application. Again, it takes 6 minutes for that to spin up.
Right.
And then I can run it, find owners. Now, what's interesting, if you recall, is when I created the database, I used the MySQL ephemeral version. I may have brushed over that, which means if I go out here and delete the, well, let's look at administrator. What's running under my workloads? There's a pod for MySQL deploy. That is the pod that deploys MySQL, and then it's done. Here's the actual pod running MySQL. Now, because it's ephemeral, the database, the data are stored inside that pod. So if I add data and then delete this pod, well, if I delete this pod, it will automatically replace it.
Right.
But because the data is inside the pod, it'll go away. It's lost.
It's ephemeral. Yeah.
Right. So when you're a developer, that's kind of cool because you can go out and create a database and test your code and work on stuff. And then when you blow it away, it's not like you have data hanging around. It's like, okay, it's done. It's gone. Now in production, you probably want to use the permanent one, which is probably usually a good idea.
You want some persistent storage behind your database. Yes.
Usually a pretty good idea. Yeah. So that's how you take your code in, and you won't get the goofy error. Like I said, I was running that in a different. I'm not going to sit here.
Some policy. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah. That's a whole nother. That's not the sandbox. That's not the sandbox. That's not the sandbox. That's a whole nother experimental thing that I'm working on. I'll tell you what it is. I'm running Windows containers in OpenShift, and it's really slick. Now that's coming. Yeah. We can't do that in the sandbox.
Not yet.
I would just say generally in OpenShift, you can run Windows containers, and you can. Oh, there's so much cool stuff for Windows people coming. I mean, it's but focus.
Yes. Yes.
So you can do that. Now the other thing you can do is you can pull in a. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my other screen. I'm trying to get the right one. Where's my script? Come on, guys. Guys meaning me. There's my script. You can run your own container. And so I'm going to go up here back into developer mode. What am I doing? Which container am I doing? Oh, yeah, quote of the day. Okay. Sorry, I made notes to run a container, but I forgot which one it was. So I know what I'll do. I'll go out here and log in. So this is a very controversial website because of the name of it. QUAY. Some people say Quay, but it's colloquial English key, and that's where Key West comes from. So I call it key because I'm right. So this is quote of the day. That's not arrogance, that's confidence.
Right.
So I have this thing called quote of the day, and here's it's just a regular old image I created in, I don't know what language. Again, isn't that the beauty of
like I
don't remember. Right? I think it's written in Go because I think I have a C#. I have it written in like 5 different languages, and basically it just gives you. It has like 6 quotes in it from famous people, and you can get them randomly or what. It's just an example of a microservice. Someday I'll tie it to like a database. But here's one called November 11.1, which I created. I'm going to guess November 11th. So that I'm not guessing. That's for real. So in my there's no audience to laugh at my jokes.
It's just me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm failing. So
no, I'm actually trying to respond to comments in chat.
Right? Oh, okay. So I'm going to do that URL key.io. And right now people are cringing when I say key. So I'm going to say key.io/Shank. So quote of the day, November 11.1 from key. I'm going to keep saying key.io because I just know a few people at Red Hat. They're going, no. So it validated that it's there. I don't need any pool secrets. The application name. Why is it saying? Oh, this is where it doesn't matter. You can group pods. So applications run in pods. You can group them together into an application in OpenShift. So there's a little it's an application running in an application. In OpenShift, the grouping of pods is an application.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to call it quote of the day. And this should work. The reason I pause is because if you have an image stream, like you pulled an image down, sometimes you rerun it, say it already exists. So if you're familiar with images at all, you have a registry, which is what this is. This is a registry where I keep stuff. And then inside of OpenShift, you have your own registry. And it's really cool because it follows a naming convention that has to do with the project that you're in. So in OpenShift, you have projects. See this? And in fact, in the sandbox, you're given 3. One's called username -dev, the other one's username -code, and the other one's username -stage. I've done all my work in dev and played in code. So anyway, you have different projects, and I lost my train of thought. So, so I put this into this project, and quote of the day is running there. So I should be able to click on this URL, and theoretically, I should be able to see this application running. And there it is. So that's really tiny. But here's what, like, so I can do quotes and get all of them. I can do quotes /random, and I can get random quotes. Thine own self be true. There's a one. There it is. I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. That's my favorite.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but that's how easy it is to bring your own image into the sandbox. Again, it's not costing you anything to do this. You
Right.
could just like go out and say, "Yeah, I'll just bring this image and see what happens." Go ahead. Here's what's really cool though. Behind the scenes, when I did all that, it created a bunch of stuff, and I want to show you some of this. So under workloads, it created what's called a deployment. And here's my quote of the day. So the other ones are there too. I keep gesturing off out of frame. The others are there too. And so if I click on that quote of the day deployment, so here's the number of pods. Watch this. So I clicked it. What's 5, 1,006, 1,007? So within like what, 8-10 seconds, I have two. Now I have 2 of them. So I have 2 instances of that running. They're both gonna work the same way. If I'm if I'm hitting it heavy, well, it doesn't matter. When I'm hitting that, by default, OpenShift does round robin routing, load balancing. So it's going to go pod 1, pod 2, pod 1, pod 2. So that's just to show you how quickly you can scale something. And you can set up auto scaling. I'm going to set that back to 1. I want to show you this. Everything in Kubernetes and OpenShift is set up and controlled by YAML. Like it or not, YAML's here.
Right, exactly.
So the cool thing is it did all this from those. Remember the screen where I just said, here's the repo, here's the image, and I gave it a name and whatever. It created all this YAML for me, most of which I'm going to ignore. But it's pretty slick that it did this. The cool thing is when you're learning all this, you're like, what does that do? What you can do is over here in the corner, you can download that to your local machine, and then you can start looking at it, and you can open it in your favorite editor, Vim or Emacs or VS Code, and you can start like do some web searching, go to Red Hat Developer, play around, and start really learning what's going on. And so then you have this little, it's not a script, but it's a YAML file that describes what that object is, in this case, a deployment. But it also created a service called quote of the day. Remember, service is when you take your pod and you run it inside of OpenShift, it becomes a service. It too has YAML that describes it. You can download that and look at it, and you can see there's different ports it's running on. That's the other cool thing about Kubernetes. You don't have to you can have 2 things running on the same port. Yes, because Kubernetes will set up a random port.
Yeah.
A random port, and then map it to that one, that's nice. As a developer, that's nice. But you can pull this down, that YAML file, and then you have a route, and you can pull that down, and you can look at that YAML file. So this is, again, in the free sandbox, you can do all this stuff and start to learn it. And in fact, I did that, and I have it on my desktop. Oh, I probably shouldn't do this. People are going to see the other stuff I have on my desktop. But here they are. I have these 3. And so that's what I did. I downloaded them, and I have these files. Now, what's really cool about this is you can tweak these, because there's things like when should you rebuild? Is it always or only when something changes? There's lots of little tweaks you can do here. Like you could have it that when you set up when you start an application, when you launch a deployment, it could automatically do 3 pods because I just want to start there for some reason because I know this is going to be used heavily or whatever. You can set up, and then when you really get into it, you start messing with this thing called Istio, which allows you to set up routing and all kinds of cool stuff. You can play around with what's called blue-green deployments and canary deployments. There's all this great stuff that you can do for nothing in terms of money. You can do for free at no cost. But when you have these files in your possession as a developer, this is the genesis of that mysterious thing called DevOps. Because now I can take these files and include them in my source in like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket where I'm storing my stuff.
Yeah.
And I can hand these off to operations and say, hey, look, I've got this running and here it is. And operations can say, okay, cool. We're going to take this and we have some standards that we apply or naming conventions or what have you. And they can tweak it and use it. And that conversation and those files can go back and forth. And that is what GitOps is. I mean, DevOps. That's what DevOps is. That is the cooperation and the joining of developers and operations. So you can literally, I know I'm pie in the sky, but you could literally introduce DevOps to where you work through this free opportunity from Developer Sandbox. It could literally be the genesis of that whole, dogs and cats living together. It really could. It's because it's really slick to be able to put stuff into files. Infrastructure as code is, if you haven't been there, it's vastly underrated and tremendous. Because to put stuff in, you're a developer, right? You work with code. To put things in code is just like, oh, this is so great. I don't have to point and click and guess.
Right. Yeah,
so that's
as someone mentioned in comments, throw in some Argo CD and you got GitOps. There you go.
Yes, yeah, right. And then you also have, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention this. Okay, well, so you have an OpenShift, this thing called Tecton, which is a CI/CD system that is built out of the Knative build. And if these are all strange words to you, again, get in the sandbox, take those words, look them up with the web browser, web search of your choice, Google, DuckDuckGo, or Bing, or whatever, and start learning these things. And you'll be like, whoa, this is really cool. So Tecton's built on Knative build, and it basically allows you to build your images through a pipeline and do the testing and everything. And if you remember 15 minutes ago, I mentioned that OpenShift has its own container registry. You can do and you know what it's going to be named because it follows the name of your project. You can use Tecton to build images and stick them right into your project, so which is pretty slick. And in fact, I have a whole series, 6 articles and 3 videos and some repos coming out on this.
Okay, cool.
Very shortly.
Nice.
So that's who can use it. That's what you can do. Why would you do it? Well, again, it's a zero risk opportunity. There's literally no risk. You're not even installing anything. And you can play around with DevOps. Now, there's another part of this that I want to try. And I'm saying that because when I did it yesterday, it failed because we didn't have enough resources available. And I'm going to try it. It's beta. So there's a thing called Code Ready Workspaces, which is so cool. Yes. Code Ready Workspaces allows you to run basically an IDE in a browser. Now, I have a .NET when I did. I'm going to start it up. Can I move this? Now, that originally, that to me, I thought, well, why would you do that? I have a PC. And then, well, there's a couple of,
a lot of reasons. Yeah.
The biggest, to me, the biggest, most obvious one is if you have like 20,000 developers and you're onboarding someone,
right?
Basically, you can say, here's a URL, get to work.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're good. You can set up custom workspaces and custom layers of dependencies. So you might have one project in Python, what is it, 3.8, and you have these dependencies. You might have another one in Python, is it 3.6?
Yeah.
And so you don't have to mess around with that Python env, the environment switching and stuff. You could just set up separate workspaces. You can set up separate ones for .NET, Node with Express, Node with MongoDB, Java, whatever you want. You can set up different workspaces And to switch them out, you just go to the workspace and you say, okay, here, and you click on it and you're in the workspace. Now, again, I don't know if we have the resources for this one to come up or not. And this
should
might
be
take
interesting.
Yeah. But I've done this in production environments. There's no, I mean, when you have your own cluster, it's a world of difference when we're talking performance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just be honest, you're sharing a bunch of stuff here versus like kind of owning it.
And to be honest, I don't know if the sandbox right now has enough resources.
I don't think it does. I don't think I expect this to not work, but I at least wanted to
try. If it does, it'll be like a really great testament. Yeah.
The other thing about this is you just need a browser. So
right.
I like to just do.
You don't need to install any extensions or VS Code or anything else. You just dive in. Yeah.
I remember I did COBOL in a container. Well, so the other stupid thing I did was I took my old Windows phone, which was the best operating system ever. I swear, anyway, and they had this thing called Continuum, and it was a little box that you would plug into your phone, and it made it run like a PC.
Oh, I remember that.
And so I did that, opened a browser, and wrote .NET code. I'm like, I'm writing .NET code on a phone.
On a phone, yeah.
Because
that's just amazing.
And the other thing is, if you're in this and you hit F11 and go full screen, after about a minute or so, you completely forget you're in a browser. It's just VS Code. To the point that VS Code plugins will work on this. Most of them. Because if you're not familiar with VS Code, and here's a tangent, it's based on technology called Electron. And so VS Code and all that is just JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. That's what it is. That's why it's like, hey, it works in a browser. Yep. So it looks like some stuff is going to want to run. Okay. So this particular workspace I have is for .NET 3.1. It could very well be Node. It could be Python. It could be PHP. It could be Go. Java. Just name the application stack, and we have those. And you can also create your own. But it's really slick because it ties in with GitHub or your Git repo, so you can either have it persistent where it stores the code in your cluster, or you can have it ephemeral, and when you save it, you basically what you do is you push it to GitHub. So you don't even have to have any kind of like persistence. You could run this anywhere.
Yeah, you could totally like fire up a new cluster, throw the image.
So you could just like
off you go.
So like Thanksgiving, you're on call in your parents' house and fixing their printer like you're always doing, and like you get a call, it's like, oh, this microservice died. You could literally walk over to their PC and open your browser and go fix it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could even sit on the beach with a Surface Duo and reference it, and that would be really stupid to do that, but you could do that. I mean, seriously, who wants to sit on the beach and write code? I'm there for other reasons.
I mean, there's people that do that though, right?
Well, I apologize, but I would not do that. But like, if it's not stupid, if you like.
Let me think about this. The last time I was at a beach, did I write any code? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's inevitable, right? Like I'll get bored at some point, right? And I'm just gonna go sit on the beach and let sand get in my laptop.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
So I hit the wrong button there. So I think it's still loading. I got this. Yeah, but that's you get access to this.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
So
in this sandbox?
In this free sandbox, you get access to this. And look, and it's like, this looks really familiar. It's
right.
Code. So here's my .NET web sample. Look at this. Here's code and all the plugins I want. I got a terminal where I can do like .NET build, .NET run, all that stuff.
And I see you using Edge for this. So this isn't like some,
I use Microsoft. Yeah.
This isn't like I need Google Chrome or something. You can use this in any browser, right? Like,
well, I don't know about links, but
links. I mean, that could get interesting.
There's people out there going, "What is links?" You have to look it up.
Look it up.
But this is I mean, how cool is this? I mean, I'm writing code and compiling and everything. So that's via Code Ready Workspaces.
That's amazing.
This is literally like a whole nother OpenShift TV if you haven't already done it. You probably have, right? No?
Yeah. No,
Code-ready
well,
workspace?
I mean, have we talked about code ready workspaces? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, please say yes, because I don't want to do that one too. No, I mean, I'm just kidding. I would love to, but it's so yeah. Go find that one and like, oh my gosh, the world, all this is in the sandbox.
Yeah, you can get access to anything.
So
OpenShift wise in the sandbox, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Like I said, there are some single tenant things you can't do, but you won't care. You should be like, oh man, this is so slick. This is so cool, and it does not cost me anything. So let's look forward. Let's say a week or two, and you're done with this. You're like, okay, what next? So I just want to like your exit strategy. There's a thing called code ready containers. It takes a bit of a powerful PC. I'm not gonna lie.
We're working on it, folks. We really are.
But the nice thing about it is that whole multi-tenancy thing, you don't have to worry about that. You basically have a cluster on your PC, and then you can really go to town. You can have a blast with that.
Yeah. You can run,
I've run KubeVirt on that. So if you're not familiar with that, right, you can run a virtual machine in OpenShift and treat it like a container. What?
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yes, could you run a Windows? Yes, you could run a Windows VM.
Yes, you can run a Windows VM on your OpenShift cluster.
So code ready containers, or we call it CRC. Well, like you can do that. So it's as a developer, that's like, okay, maybe that's the next step, or maybe the next step is if you have an on-prem data center, maybe you have an old server laying around from when you were a sysop. Maybe you have a server sitting around that you could install OpenShift, or maybe you have a cluster in the cloud of your choice. Maybe your company's like, okay, we don't mind spending a little bit of money. Go to Amazon. I spun up a cluster a few weeks ago in Azure to demo some really slick thing, and it took like 45 minutes, and I had a complete production cluster running, and it's like I typed in like a dozen commands, which were basically copy paste.
Yeah.
And change a few parameters. And I was like, that's all I got to do. And I have and I was slick. And you talk about performance difference.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man. I was like a kid running through a candy store. Like, this is awesome.
Using someone else's RAM and CPU.
Yes. It's someone
awesome.
RAM and the company's money, let's be honest.
Right.
So that's what's next. That's what I have to show for the sandbox. So
like the audience is just ecstatic about this, right?
Are they really? Or are you just
like this is, no, I'm not kidding. Like I can send you the text afterwards, right? Like this is amazing. How long do we have access to these sandboxes? How long will this program allow a single user to be part of it? Right.
So you get, I think your pod runs for 8 hours in a day. You start up a pod, it'll run for 8 hours and then quiesce. That's the fancy word for stop.
Yeah.
And you get it for, I was told, a week.
I forget.
We
have talked about it this week, and I already forgotten. So I need to go look.
No, it's 2 weeks. I'm sorry, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, got it.
So, and that's pretty slick.
Yeah, like
and you work in a big company. It's like, okay, Sarah gets hers for 2 weeks, and then you all sit around the computer, play around with it, and then Mary gets her. I didn't say that. No, that's actually okay.
Yeah, and you can sign up again. Yeah, that's totally fine. You can get another cluster if you need to kick tires on something, right?
I used to use a Pittsburgh Steelers glass, but now I'm too ashamed. So are there questions? I don't know.
So people.
TV, do we have like to play out, or do we do it live, or how do we do this?
I mean, whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you. So there's a lot of this is awesome, right? Like the fact I can use CRW inside the sandbox is great. Like, have you tried deploying service mesh or anything like that in the sandbox? I don't know. I don't know.
I have not. And that's okay. That's the whole idea. Somebody try it. Go ahead, do it.
Yeah, try it. Let us know how it is.
Yeah.
We definitely want feedback on it, right?
Because it's beta.
It is beta.
So we don't. I love that. For now on, my wife, like, I give her a Christmas present, I'd be like, this is a beta. So if she doesn't like it, I'll be like, well,
we can take it back. All right. I mean, like if you're good on the content you've covered, we can wrap this up, and that'd be fine. No worries here. The audience loves this. Thank you for sharing it.
My pleasure.
And this is like what we're doing, folks. We're trying to get you more hands-on with OpenShift so you can understand how it works better, right? Like we understand the need for, having a beta environment cluster to show off the capabilities to somebody that might buy this thing for you eventually at some point, right? So like we get it. Narindev, like I just asked, like if you can get service mesh working on this, let me know. If you can get Knative working on this, I don't think that'd be a problem, to be honest with you.
No,
Serverless should be fine.
It's part of it actually. Knative.
Yeah. So the service mesh piece, not sure about, right? Like, because that is a pretty high resource consumption thing, SDO.
Well, either that or is it? I don't know if I can't remember if it's multi-tenant. I guess it must be. It has to be. But But there's a really good 10-part series about Istio on Red Hat Developer that I wrote. Oh my! Coincidence.
Wow. I should look that up and then share it with the audience real quick. Let's see. You wrote about Istio, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can pull it up.
If you haven't figured it out, folks, I do a lot of writing.
Well,
which is I had the best job in the world. I really do.
Are you sure? My job's pretty freaking
No,
cool.
I'll tell you why mine's better, because not only do I get to speak at conferences, which I love, and I've written 3 books. Well, one, a tech book. But I get to like play around with technology and break it and report it and play around some more. And then I write about my experiences. Like it's like the developer's dream. Like, hey, there's this new technology. Think I'll play with it and write about it.
I'm just going to share your whole like list of stuff. You write a ton for us. Yeah. Thank you.
I love to write. I was a journalist before. I've done a lot in my years.
Don't date yourself too much. Okay.
No, I mean, I'm old.
Where were you for the Kennedy assassination? I mean, you're not that old, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Wow. All right. Never mind.
Yeah,
I'm out. Okay. I remember. Yeah. Sorry, HR. I didn't mean to ask that.
No, it's okay. No, I don't have any problems at being old. It beats the alternative. So.
Okay, so Parag says right now the sandbox does not have service mesh or serverless operators on it. We plan to add them soon.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
I apologize because when you're involved in the whole conversation, you forget what's coming and what's available. But it's because it's beta. It's beta.
Trust me, we talk about the future so much on this show. I don't know what is currently like GA beta.
I know.
Like,
and I'm like,
go check 9 times out of 10.
Am I supposed to say that or not?
Whoops. And I don't think we've had any major faux pas.
I'm already in trouble with the hedge fund managers out there. So
I know, right? Like they're coming for you next. This Don guy blowing us up on this channel. Come on. But that would be funny if they all shut up here at once.
Oh yeah, that'd be real funny.
So yeah, I think we've got everybody's questions answered. So Macaulay says, this is really cool. I just started learning about OpenShift and look what I got. Free environment to play with. Yeah,
that's cool.
There you go. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to spend $1,500 like I did to get your own cluster in your house, right? Like
you don't have to answer when your manager goes, "What is this for?" I'm like, "Oh no, sorry."
My Azure cloud spend, I promise you,
I had something on Amazon, and a month later I got another bill. I was like, "What?" And it's one of those things where everybody's heard this, where you forgot something was on there, because there's no way to go in and say, like, just wipe out everything. And I was like,
oops. that is like my number one pet peeve. I have gotten a personal $2,700 bill from Amazon before because of a bug in Cloudflare, believe it or not.
Well,
so figuring that one out with AWS was super awesome.
Oh, but that was fun.
But like
they really need the money.
They learned. They totally refunded me. They were, but like they learned so much from that bug being exposed, right? It was worth the money to them.
The $5,000 bug bounty or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so yeah,
you guys owe me money. Man, if there was a bug bounty in my career, I'd have been broke a long time ago. Like on my code. Man, I would never do that.
I mean, I remember when I was a network admin and then a security admin, right? Like all the bugs I submitted to Cisco, right? Like that eventually got published or fixed or whatever. Man. Like if Cisco would have paid me for that work, it would have been great. Thank you.
Oh well, software.
Getting a 500 error when I try to sign up. Wow. Okay.
Well, we might be
we might be having capacity issues potentially as a result.
Operators are standing by.
Yeah.
No. Your call is important to us.
Okay, so Borislav, that might be a capacity issue that we're hitting. Wait a couple of minutes, try again. You should be fine.
Apologize for that, but
yeah, I don't know. Is it signing up for the developer's account or signing up for the trial or the cluster itself? I'm curious which one you're getting the error on, and that'll come in a few seconds.
Well, you know what? I should let you go because you probably have another show and gotta get ready.
I do have actually. You know what is up next for me? A meeting, yes, and then a very long stream of the OpenShift Commons gathering on data science. We'll be covering the first bit of it, and then we'll be switching over to GitOps Happy Hour after that. So yeah, your account is being prepared for the cluster. Okay, Borislav says he's getting a 500 signing up for the cluster itself.
I'm sure it's capacity.
What do I log in with? It should be your developer account.
And if you don't have one, you have to get one. Again,
you have to get one. Oh, what do you log into the cluster with? It should tell you that, I believe.
Yeah, when you go, they'll be like, open my cluster, and it'll take you right to it. It won't.
Yeah.
It won't
like
ask you. You won't get the login screen that you normally get with OpenShift. You'll just go right to your cluster.
Is KubeAdmin available in the Dev Sandbox? I don't think so.
No, because it's one cluster. We don't want you going over and wiping out everybody else's stuff.
Right. So, yeah, like. Can you use the command line tools?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I wanted to show that and forgot. Sorry.
No worries. We can have you on some other time when everything's more fleshed out, right? When it's not in beta, right?
Sure. Yeah, when it's not in beta. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, keep in mind it's a beta product. Work with us. Oh, Narindev says I got a login screen. Oh, that's not good. Click something.
Oh, well,
Is there an option to click something? It showed these options. Okay, so it's showing some options.
Well, there's a couple of login screens. So when you go to the Developer Sandbox site, you have to have a Red Hat account. At that point, it's going to ask you to log in with your Red Hat account. You're logging into Red Hat Developer. Then it's going to redirect you to a screen that says, accept the terms and conditions, and you click OK. And then it takes you to your cluster. So there is a login, but it's not the standard OpenShift login. Like if you've ever worked with OpenShift, there's a login that says welcome to OpenShift.
Right.
This is the developer that redirects you and automatically logs you in.
I'm going to see if I can get this working. Well, anyways, if you have problems, we have a Discord, and I would like you to share your problems with us in Discord or send me an email, cshort@redhat.com.
I am on Twitter at Don Schenk, SCHENCK. Go ahead. I'm there.
Light up Don on Twitter.
I'll help you.
Yeah. And I'm Chris Short, all one word on Twitter. And you can ping me via email just fine. Ping me on Twitter just fine. Nurendev's getting through it. So yeah, now he's in the cluster. Okay, cool. Thank you.
An hour ago, I was like, what happens if I run short? I don't have enough stuff.
No, yeah.
Now it's like 2 minutes before closing time.
So yeah. Thank you so much, Don, for coming on, showing this off for us.
Thank you, everyone.
This has been a great show. Thank you so much.
Take advantage of it, man.
Yeah, it's free and it's there for you to learn and kick tires on. So like if you have your cluster at work and they don't want you messing up with stuff, use this one instead, right? Like, all right, man. There you go.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Don. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you soon here in about an hour.